So consumption of meat made us smart and human. What do I mean with that? And what are the implications for the carnivore diet and the modern food industry and such stuff like that? So, we humans started to consume meat, or rather our ancestors started to consume meat around 2.1 million years ago, if I remember correctly. And after that, it has been a staple in our diet, unlike the grains and legumes and fruits and vegetables. But this video is not about that, so let's continue with the meat stuff. So we started to consume meat, or our ancestors started to consume meat 2.1 million years ago, and after that it has been a staple in our diet. And the consumption of meat, hunting and scavenging has been a major part in the fact that we grew big brains, and essentially we became modern humans because of that. And because of that, meat usage has been a major role in our evolution, and basically hunting and scavenging and socializing have been the biggest, most important role for the growth of our brain, because those things put a pressure for us to grow bigger, more powerful brains. Because if you live on the savanna and leave the trees like we or our ancestors did, I keep saying we, but actually we came around 200,000 years ago maybe. So, but anyway, our ancestors left the trees and started to, experiment with new food resources from the ground, like turnips and other vegetables and berries and etc., which you could find on the ground floor of the forests. And after that they became slowly but surely bipedal and started to walk around the savanna and be like, hey, where the fuck is the food? So they started to experiment with new food resources, and the one theory is that they actually started to scavenge at first because they discovered the tool making, and all these other predators left behind these valuable corpses to scavenge for the poor humans back in the day. And they were like, okay, here is a carcass that has some bones and sinew and little bit of food left around it. So these humans were like, hey, let's crack these bones open with these tools and let's feast with this 5-star meal. So they did that and discovered that there is bone marrow inside the bones. And the one theory is that we were actually scavengers and started to grow these big brains because we consumed so much of that bone marrow that these predators left behind in the form of bones. So we had these nimble hands compared to other primates, and we could make these intricate tools back in the day and use these tools to actually hunt and break bones, and essentially the tools were our version of teeth and claws, because we are pretty puny and weak compared to other animals. But when armed with a sharp stick or spear or bow or something like that, we become ultimate predators actually. So the whole vegan argument that, we don't have predator teeth and we don't have claws or stuff like that, it's pretty ridiculous, because actually we have the ultimate claws and teeth, and that is called tools and weapons. And nowadays we have nuclear bombs and etc. So shut the fuck up about that stuff, because we are actually the ultimate predators when it comes to weapons, and we spend a lot of time and resources to develop our weapons even nowadays. So, but anyway, back in the topic. So we left the trees, started to scavenge around and started hunt some animals, but the theory is that, or the competing theories are the scavenging versus hunting thing, which came first. And I don't really think that it's so important, because everyone agrees that the most important point for the development of brains and essentially us becoming modern humans was animal products. If it was scavenging or if it was hunting, I don't really care. And one interesting point to note is that the earliest consistent evidence of cooking with modern, or not modern humans, but with our ancestors was 5,000 years ago. So there is like a 1.5 million year gap of no cooking, but we ate meat. So the whole theory of our brains developing because we started to cook, that we started to cook is pretty flimsy at best, in my opinion, because if we don't have convincing evidence of cooking during those 1.5 million years, well, then the cooking part has really no place in the development of our brains. And it seems to me that it is mostly about the meat and the scavenging, bone marrow and etc., not about cooking. But I'm sure that the cooking had some role later, but not the most important role. The most important role was the animal products, or the increased introduction of animal products, the hunting part and the socializing part, because socializing, hunting and etc. introduces a lot of complicated behaviors into the species, and that in itself drives the evolution of our brain. Because if you think about it, what are the herbivore animals doing whole day? Well, they are basically eating and digesting their food. They have no time to do pretty much anything else. But we as modern humans, the more we started to eat meat, the more free time we also had. So the free time had to be used somewhere, and we started to socializing more, and all that stuff really put a pressure for our brains to grow, and the hunting and the resources in forms of meat provided us the building blocks to build the big brains. And I think that really covers the whole thing. You know, it really boils down to this. We left the trees, we started to look new food resources, and because of that we discovered the Caucasus, started to develop tools, scavenged, we started to hunt, and because of that we started to socialize more. What I'm doing with my fingers anyway. We started to socialize more, and because of that we developed more languages. The language became more complex. The more complex language also drove our brain development. More meat came in because we started to become better hunters and scavengers. We started to migrate north and go after the megafauna like the mammoths and etc. And the rest of that you should know if you have gone through the Western school system. But it's pretty interesting to note that meat, hunting, scavenging and socializing seem to be the 4 most important, and tool making, maybe 5 most important, tool making also. So those are the 5 most important things, in my opinion, that really made us human. And consumption of meat really did make us smart and modern human. I hope this was helpful. Bye bye.